There's only a few starting quarterbacks in the NFL safe from the hot seat. We all know who they are, but that doesn't mean they can't show us more. Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson are some of the most dynamic players we've ever seen, but there's still a big question lingering over both of them. All while the best player this generation in Patrick Mahomes is coming off a major injury off the back of his worst season as a starter. But the teams you're facing on Sunday don't care about your resume. We're going over each active starting NFL quarterback for the upcoming 2026 season and explaining what each of them has left to prove to us during this year. We'll start with who people say is the best quarterback in the NFL. Josh Allen has done everything except win the big one. He's got the arm talent and the regular season wins. The Bills made the playoffs again, and he's been talked about as the best quarterback in football, but the playoff resume still has a hole in it. The Bills beat the Ravens 41-40 in the regular season after a 15-point fourth quarter comeback during week 1. They would ride that momentum all the way to the playoffs. James Cook would have his best season as a pro, and Josh Allen would lead a comeback against the Jags in the wildcard round. However, in the divisional round game, he turned the ball over 4 times and didn't reach the Super Bowl. Even with Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, and Joe Burrow not being in the bracket, the Bills still couldn't get out of round 2. The question isn't about Josh's ability, it's about whether he can get over the hump. He has to prove he can hoist the Lombardi trophy, not just get semi-close. Malik Willis in Miami is a developmental project. He bounced around early in his career and now has landed with the Dolphins as the starter. The athleticism and arm strength are there, but the consistency and processing speed are still huge question marks. The Dolphins gave him a contract based on potential. The NFL is littered with quarterbacks who got paid and never lived up to it. Willis needs to show his best football is still ahead of him and that he can be the reason Miami wins games. Drake May's sophomore season was a surprise for everyone. The arm talent jumps off the tape and the numbers backed it up. May led the NFL in total QBR at 77.1, completion percentage at 72%, and yards per attempt at 8.9. He finished second in MVP voting at just 23 years old. New England reached the Super Bowl, but lost to the Seahawks. However, the Patriots had one of the easiest schedules in the league. When you look at the quality of defenses they faced, it was a perfect storm for a young quarterback to put up numbers. So the question is whether May's elite season was the baseline or inflated by the schedule. The Patriots have been searching for Brady's replacement for years. Drake looks like the answer, but looking like it and being it are two different things. Lastly, we have to unfortunately talk about the Jets. Geno Smith resurrected his career in Seattle. He went from backup to Pro Bowler. He threw for over 4,000 yards. He won Comeback Player of the Year. It was one of the best redemption stories in recent history. Then he went to the Raiders. The offense was the definition of dysfunctional last season. The offensive line was a mess, the play calling was even worse, but Geno also looked like a shell of his Seattle self. The accuracy dipped and his pocket presence disappeared. Geno needs to prove he's not done. As long as he can make the Jets watchable, he'll have proven that. But that may be an impossible task, to be honest. The AFC North double downs on the problem that Josh Allen had with the QB up in Baltimore. Lamar Jackson is a 2-time MVP. He's the most dynamic player at the position we've ever seen. He's led the Ravens to the playoffs consistently, but the same question that follows Josh Allen also follows Lamar. Can he win the big one? The playoff record speaks for itself. 1 AFC Championship appearance, a 3-5 playoff record, 0 Super Bowls, and the narrative gets louder every year. Lamar has played some of his worst football in the playoffs. The interceptions spike and the fumbles happen at the worst times. The talent is undeniable, but the conversation around Lamar Jackson won't change until he's holding a Lombardi trophy. We'll see if they can bounce back after the disappointing season last year, but with the new coaching staff, anything is possible. Joe Burrow has already been to the Super Bowl. He's taken the Bengals to the AFC Championship twice, and he's got the clutch gene in his veins. But the injuries are stacking up, and the Bengals have missed the playoffs for 3 straight seasons. When Burrow's healthy, he's a top 5 quarterback. The accuracy and pocket movement are elite, but he's taken more hits than any quarterback in the league over the last 4 years. The offensive line has been a problem, but it's not as bad anymore. The defense has been inconsistent, however they traded for Dexter Lawrence this offseason. Burrow needs to stay healthy enough to lead a deep playoff run once again. Shedeur Sanders came to Cleveland with all the hype in the world. He was electric at Colorado, but the Browns are a cursed franchise and his rookie season proved that. Even when things went slightly okay, something would ruin it. The Browns have been a quarterback graveyard for decades. Shedeur might have the tools, but doing it in Cleveland with this roster will be a Herculean effort. The Steelers have Aaron Rodgers, who's 42 years old. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer, so he doesn't really have anything left to prove. But since he's still starting and playing, if he can lead the Steelers on a deep playoff run without being annoying, that'll be a nice notch on his very decorated belt. Patrick Mahomes has been the standard in this league for years. He's won multiple Super Bowls, but in 2025 he tore his ACL and LCL against the Chargers. The Chiefs missed the playoffs, and now the question is whether he can bounce back and return Kansas City to contention. The arm and the mind are still there, but recovering from a torn ACL at this stage of his career is a serious challenge. Pat has to prove he can still move in the pocket and extend plays, and that the 2025 disaster was a fluke and not the beginning of a true decline. The Chiefs need him back at full strength, and the rest of the AFC is only getting better. Justin Herbert has one of the best arms in football. The talent jumps off the screen every time he throws a deep ball, but the playoff wins haven't come, and at some point talent isn't enough. The Chargers have been competitive. They put up stats and made highlight plays, but Justin needs to prove he can win a playoff game. Not just reach the postseason or put up big numbers in December. He needs to win in January, at least once. The excuses are running out, and it's time for Herbert to show that he's more than just a physically gifted passer. Bo Nix had a remarkable second season in Denver. The Broncos earned a first-round bye in the playoffs by being the number 1 seed. Nix showed poise beyond his years. He made smart decisions. He managed games like a veteran. But the question is whether he can replicate that magic. Bo needs to prove that 2025 was the beginning of something real and not a one-year fluke. The Broncos have a great coaching staff and a solid foundation, and now they need to see if their quarterback can take the next step. Especially with the Jalen Waddle trade, he should take that leap. The Raiders have Fernando Mendoza, the draft pick they hope is the quarterback of the future. But Kirk Cousins is still on the roster, so I expect him to start early and then be benched. So we'll just talk about the number 1 overall pick. Mendoza has the physical tools and strong arm. The processing speed and accuracy need to be consistent. The Raiders need to see flashes of franchise potential and real growth. They need to see they didn't draft another project who needs 3 years just to look competent. Fernando needs to prove he can potentially be that guy. Now we hit the AFC South, where 3 young quarterbacks are at completely different crossroads. CJ Stroud's rookie season was one of the best we've ever seen. He threw for over 4,100 yards. He led the Texans to a playoff win. He looked like a superstar from day one. But the sophomore and junior seasons weren't quite the same. In 2025, the Texans defense carried them through stretches. Stroud was okay, but he wasn't the dominant force we saw in 2023. The deep ball wasn't as consistent, while he had some horrendous turnovers. And when the defense struggled, the offense struggled with them. Stroud can still be a top-tier quarterback, but he needs to show that his rookie season was the baseline, not the ceiling. That he can win in the playoffs because of him and not solely because the defense bails him out. Trevor Lawrence was supposed to be the generational guy, the best prospect since Andrew Luck, the guy who was going to save the Jags. He's been fine. Not great, not terrible, just fine. The second half of 2025 was actually promising. The offense started clicking. Lawrence played with confidence and the throws were sharper. The Jags won some games they had no business winning. Trevor has the tools with the arm and the mobility, but the consistency has never been there. He looked like a top 5 quarterback for 3 games and fall off a cliff for the next 3. He has to show he can sustain elite play and that the first half of his career was a product of bad coaching and bad roster construction, not a reflection of who he is. Daniel Jones in Indianapolis is one of the strangest career arcs we've ever seen. He got paid in New York, then he got benched, then he got released, and now he's in Indy trying to put it all back together. Jones was actually playing decent football before the Achilles tear. He wasn't elite, but he was efficient. He was making good decisions and using his legs effectively. Then they started to struggle and the injury happened and the whole thing went up in flames. The Colts have Jonathan Taylor and weapons on the outside. If Daniel can stay healthy and play smart football, there's a path. But the clock is ticking, especially after somehow receiving another massive extension. He needs to be the guy and not be the guy who fooled everyone a second time. Cam Ward's rookie season was rough. The Titans were a mess and the coaching staff got fired by mid-season. Ward looked like a rookie playing in a bad situation. He would throw some absolute dimes and then he had some really head-scratching plays. But the Titans have a new coaching staff along with the new system. They have a chance to build something around him. Cam has all the physical tools, but the decision making needs to improve. The Titans need to see more than just flashes, they want to see true growth. They need to see that they have a franchise quarterback, not just a guy who was drafted too high. And now we're going to flip to the opposite side of the conference in the NFC South. The NFC South starts with a former first overall pick who's fighting for his football life. Baker Mayfield's career resurrection in Tampa Bay has been one of the best stories in football. He went from a cast-off to a starter, from Cleveland bust to Tampa Bay hero. He threw for over 4,500 yards and 40 touchdowns. He won a playoff game in 2024. But then his last season was injury-filled and they missed the playoffs. So the question is whether he's worth the long-term extension he's expecting. Mayfield has played on prove-it deals his whole career. He's played with a chip on his shoulder and it's worked. But can you keep that chip over multiple seasons? Baker has always been streaky. He'll go on a heater where he looks like a top 10 quarterback. Then he'll have a stretch where you're wondering if he's even a starter. The consistency has been the issue his entire career. Baker needs to show that he can be the guy for the next 5. Bryce Young was the first overall pick. He was supposed to be the savior, and it's pretty much just been a disaster. Somehow the Panthers actually won the NFC South in 2025, so the situation is complicated. Even in a division-winning season, Young hasn't shown enough to silence the doubters, myself included. The size concerns are real, the arm strength is a question, the ability to see over the line and make throws down the field has been inconsistent. And those are just a few reasons he didn't get extended this offseason. Bryce needs to prove he's actually a franchise quarterback, and not just a bust who happened to be on a team that won a weak division. Tyler Show is a wild card. He showed some flashes for sure during the season, but is that really enough? The Saints are stuck in NFL purgatory. They're not bad enough to get a top pick, but they're not good enough to compete. They've been spinning their wheels for years. Show's the latest attempt to find an answer. He needs to stay healthy and be the franchise guy thrown to Olave. Otherwise, the Saints are just wasting another season. The Falcons have Michael Penix Jr. or Tua Tagovailoa on the roster as their starter next season, which is a really depressing sentence to say. Penix has the arm talent and the college production, but the jump to the NFL was massive and it didn't seem like he was ready. Also coming off a third ACL tear, I don't really have high hopes. Tua is a veteran who's shown elite stretches when he's healthy and protected, so I think Tua wins the job. But I mean, man, at what cost? We're about to find out if this stacked team can do it again. Matthew Stafford and the Rams have proven that they can already win the big one together. The 2021 playoff run was legendary, but the question is whether he can win another one. The Rams have stacked the roster with Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams, Trent McDuffie, and Myles Garrett, all with Stafford coming off an MVP season and an NFC Championship appearance. The problem is he's 38 years old. The arm is still there, but the durability is a question. He's taken a beating over the years. Can he win it again, lasting another full healthy season? We'll have to see. Brock Purdy was Mr. Irrelevant, the last pick in the draft, and he's played at an elite level since he's taken over. He's been to a Super Bowl and he's been to 2 NFC championships. But the narrative around Purdy is that he's a system quarterback. The idea is that Kyle Shanahan's scheme makes him look better than he actually is, that the weapons around him make his job easier, and there's some truth to that. But Purdy has also made throws that system quarterbacks don't make. He's shown the ability to improvise. The thing is, the 49ers have lost some key pieces and the roster isn't as stacked as it once was. Purdy needs to show us he can elevate the team, not just manage it. He needs to carry them on a deep playoff run without everyone doing the work for him. Sam Darnold's career turnaround has been incredible. He was a bust in New York, a bust in Carolina, and a backup in San Francisco. Then he went to Seattle and won a Super Bowl with 30 touchdown passes. He completed one of the most improbable comebacks in NFL history. But the track record says that this might have been a one-year thing. Darnold has always had the talent, but the consistency has never been there. In Seattle, he's got Cooper Kupp, Jackson Smith and Jigba, and a good offensive line. He's got a defense that just won a championship. Sam needs to prove he can keep it going, that he can be a perennial Pro Bowl guy, that last season was just the beginning and not the peak. Lastly is the Cardinals. I don't have much to say about this team at all. Jacoby Brissett just won a standoff with the team to get a guaranteed deal this season, so that's cool, I guess. Honestly, there's nothing left for him to prove. There's no good coming from this team in general this season. But let's move on to the NFC North. Caleb Williams was the most hyped prospect since Trevor Lawrence, maybe even Andrew Luck. He's got the arm, the creativity, and the ability to make plays that nobody else can make. And his rookie season was a mixed bag, but his second season ended with a division title and a playoff comeback win over the Packers. But the completion percentage sat below 60%. The Bears' offense was a mess at times, and the Bears have never had a 4,000-yard passer in their entire history. Caleb Williams has the talent to change that. He has the talent to be the best quarterback in Bears history, but he needs to prove he can do it consistently. That the flashes become the norm. The completion percentage has to come up. The decision making has to sharpen, and the Bears need to see growth, not just highlight reels. Jared Goff's career resurrection in Detroit has been remarkable. The Rams traded him away like damaged goods. He was supposed to be a bridge quarterback, and he's turned into one of the best passers in the league. The Lions were the best team in the NFC 2 seasons ago. They were the #1 seed and they looked unstoppable. Then in 2025, they regressed, the offense and the defense. And they missed the playoffs. Goff is still singing it at a high level. The accuracy and decision making are elite, but as more players leave the team, he's got to carry the load more and bring the Lions back into the playoffs. Jordan Love's first season as a starter was impressive. He threw for over 4,000 yards and 32 touchdowns. He led the Packers to the playoffs. He looked like the heir apparent. But the last 2 seasons have been inconsistent. The Packers have made the playoffs, but they haven't won a playoff game since that Dallas 2023 upset. Love's consistency has been the issue. He'll look like a top 5 quarterback for a month, then disappear for the next month. The Packers are a patient organization, but eventually they need to see results. They need to see playoff wins. They need to see that Love is the guy who can carry this franchise. Kyler Murray in Minnesota is one of the most interesting storylines of this offseason. He was supposed to be a star in Arizona, but things never fully clicked, and now he's in Minnesota trying to resurrect his career. Murray has the talent, the arm, and the mobility, but consistency has been the issue. The durability and maturity also hasn't helped. In Minnesota, he's got Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and protection up front. The situation is set up for him to succeed, but Kyler needs to take it as a second opportunity it is and dominate. Otherwise, his career could be over sooner than we thought in 2019. Now we end it with the NFC East, who might have the weirdest collection of quarterbacks in the entire league. Jalen Hurts has been to 2 Super Bowls, he's won 1, he's been an MVP candidate, all while being one of the most dominant runners at his position. He's done almost everything you can ask a quarterback to do, but now AJ Brown is gone after forcing the Eagles to trade him, and the offense is going to look different. 2025, Hurts put up 98.5 passer rating with 3,224 yards, 25 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions in 16 games. Those are strong numbers, but the receiving core is different now. The trust throws and most deep shots were all built around AJ. Hurts needs to prove he can still be elite without his best weapon and show he's not just a product of his supporting cast. Dak Prescott has been a regular season star. He's thrown for over 4,000 yards multiple times. He's won games. He's been in MVP conversations, all while being the face of the most popular franchise in NFL history. But the playoff record is impossible to ignore. The Cowboys haven't made it out of the second round since 1996. That's 30 years now. Dak has played well in the playoffs at times, but he's made the most critical mistakes at the worst possible moments. The interceptions, the fumbles, and the moments where the game gets too big. The Cowboys are always talented, the expectations are always high, but the results are always the same. Dak needs to prove he's the guy who can change that he can finally break through and win in January. Jaden Daniels had one of the best rookie seasons in NFL history. He threw for over 3,800 yards. He ran for 800 yards. He led the Commanders to the playoffs and went to the NFC Championship game. He looked like an absolute superstar. Then 2025 happened. The Commanders finished 5-12. The injuries piled up and his magic was gone. The thing is, the NFL adjusts. Defensive coordinators spend the offseason studying. They figure out your tendencies. Jaden needs to prove he can adapt and bring back the magic, because right now, the year 2 disaster is the freshest memory. Finally is the Giants with Jackson Dart. Jackson's rookie season was interesting. I'm not sure if he's good or not. He threw for 2,200 yards and 15 touchdowns. He showed up at times, but other times he was diving headfirst to pick up an extra half yard and getting another concussion. The Giants have been without a good quarterback since Eli Manning retired. Dart needs to prove he can stay on the field and process NFL defenses. The Giants need to see that he's not just another first rounder who couldn't handle the pressure of playing in New York. So there you have it. Watch this next video if you haven't already and subscribe if you're new. Thanks for watching.